I'm welcoming viewers in Massachusetts, viewers around the world, viewers all over the social media. My name is Ronald Bernard, and I'm the host for the show called Integration. Integration is a show that has been bringing to you by the partnership between Immigrants Development Alternatives, IDA, which is a nonprofit organization, and MCTV, which is Multicultural Television Network. This program is creating to provide information, useful information that people need, especially immigrants who are resettling in the U.S., in order to make informed decisions, in order to build their lives while they live in the U.S. So this evening, I am very glad, very honored to have with us Mr. Wadner OGE, who is an attorney in Massachusetts.
Thank you, Ronald. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. Once again, my name is Wadner OGE. I am an attorney in Massachusetts, so I have been practicing law with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for about 12 years, and I'm glad to be with you today, Ronald, to discuss a very important topic today about credit.
Thank you, partner, because it's very, critical, specifically for people who are settling in the U.S. Because, for instance, me coming from Haiti, and it's not everybody like they are used to like using the either credit system in their home countries. So, if, for instance, someone in the U.S. and they're trying to talk about credit card or apply for a credit card. So what is the simplest definition you can tell people? What is a credit card?
The credit card is just a little plastic card. It has a little chip inside of it. Basically, it's either issued by a bank or any financial institution. It's allowed you to use when you go purchase any type of goods or services, you can actually use it as credit instead of using cash. It is a very important, although it is a small plastic, but it is something very important, especially living in this country. It's very important. So there are many ways for an individual to get a credit card, and that's something we're going to cover throughout this program.
Okay, so before we're talking about many ways people can, get a credit card. So I like the fact you mentioned, you mentioned the word cash. So when someone has this plastic with the chip, we call credit card, it has like money value, right?
Yes. Basically, the way it's the financial system, that's the way the financial system in the United States is built on credit. Basically, before you can actually get a credit card, you have to establish some kind of a credit. So it's just like we have a total of 3 credit bureaus in the U.S. We have the Experience, TransUnion, or Equifax. Pretty much, they are nonprofit. They're not governmental agencies. Basically, they maintain all the credit that exists in a report. So in everything that you have a report. So they maintain the credit report, and then also if someone here in the U.S. you get in trouble criminally with the law, you will have a criminal record. But those three bureaus, they maintain your credit, everyone credit in the U.S.
Okay. And as you said, they maintain everyone credit in the U.S. So some people, for instance, in my job, I can say, because I work directly with people, and sometimes they want to purchase something, and they said, "Oh, I don't know. The bank said I don't have any credit." So what do let's say the financial institution or the banking institution means that by someone doesn't have a credit?
Basically, what they mean is that it's basically you don't have a history with one of those credit bureau I mentioned, either Equifax, TransUnion, or Experience. So not having a credit doesn't mean that you have a bad credit. It's just like you don't have a transaction. That's mean you don't have a credit card, or you don't have a student loan, or you don't have a mortgage. That's mean you don't have credit. But credit card is very important in order for you to get to different step level of borrowing money from a financial institution. You have to at least start somewhere. But starting somewhere is using that little plastic card to start building a credit history in order to get to the level you will be able to go somewhere and then say, I want to borrow like $5,000 or I want to borrow $50,000. So it's just because when the financial institution, once you establish your credit, they're going to look at it and then they're going to say you are someone valuable. And then I don't want to get ahead. I know you have a serious question. I want the audience that's listening tonight, it's very important because everything that you're doing towards your life, they have to run your credit. You trying to get an apartment, they're going to run your credit. Your car insurance, your credit is going to determine whether you pay a high premium or a lower premium. So it is very important. Even your employer, certain employers, when you're looking for a job, before they'll hire you, they're going to run a soft credit on you to determine whether you are reliable. Because if you have a credit card, you pay it on time, you have a history, you build a history, they're going to think that you are a reliable person, we can actually hire you. So the credit is very important.
So it's like you mentioned, based on the explanation, it's like they're trying to understand if you are a responsible person.
Yes. So
in terms of managing your finance.
Yes, and the credit, like for example, if you don't have a credit, that's mean either you have a bad credit, that your credit has been destroyed, or you can be a reasonable person. You just use cash. Okay. You use cash only, but using cash is not good because even though you have a cash, you can actually get a credit card and then use the credit card, then pay so that you build your credit if you don't have any credit.
Okay. So imagine, let's say I don't have any credit, and if I go to a financial institution and they propose me what they call a secured credit card.
Okay.
Is it a good option that I can build my credit with?
It is a good option. Well, no, the secure credit card, what it is, it's like the institution, the bank, or any financial institution, they're just going to ask you to put a deposit. That's what secure means. So in case, because they look at you, they run a credit report on you to Equifax, TransUnion, or Experience, they see there's nothing come up. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it's just you don't have any line of credit open. So what they're going to tell you, they're going to say, well, in order for you to give you a credit card, you're going to have to deposit $500 or $1,000. This is what you call secure credit card. It is a good way to build your credit. If you have cash, you're using cash all the time, it's not building your credit. So if you do, okay, I'm going to get a secure credit card. Yes, it's a way to build your credit. It is a good option.
So all the viewers, you are listening to Integration, and we are with attorney Wadner OGE, who is talking about, a very important information regarding credit card, regarding, some basic financial things people should understand while they live in the U.S. and things they need in order, not to put in jeopardy their life in the U.S. financially, especially if you want in the future buying a car, so you're going to need a credit for it. As you mentioned, you're going to buy a house, you're going to do certain things, even job, you're going to need credit for it. So we're going to continue with Integration and Jose. So now, when you apply for credit card, many people, what they understand is just the money. Like, okay, I apply, I get approved, they approve me for $1,000. And so when they mention about APR, what is that?
The APR is an annual percentage rate.
Okay.
Basically, there's two type of it. There's one type you can get a low. If you build your credit, you can have a low APR on your credit card. Basically, if you don't have a good credit, basically there are institutions, they make money out of people who have bad credit. So some people think that if they have bad credit, they may not get a credit card, but they will get. There are institutions, they're looking for those individuals because they're gonna put the APR very high, so that when you purchase something, if you don't pay it right away, and then they put a percentage on it. And then if you, at the end of the year, they require by law to give you a resume how much interest you pay. And then if you look at it, you have a higher APR. It's gonna be, it can be up to like $3,000 or $5,000 in interest. And then now the law requires them, they have to tell you how long it's gonna take you to pay, because when you get a credit card, you have a balance on it. There's a minimum payment you have to make. If you're making the minimum payment, it's gonna build your credit. It's gonna build your credit. However, if you have a higher balance on it, it's gonna take forever. So basically, you have to, you have to look at your budget. This is the minimum payment. How much extra I can, put it on it, so that I can, you build in the credit, and as well as you taking advantage of the. It is an opportunity. I can tell you that, right now I have about $20,000 sitting on my credit card. I don't use it, but I know that if I have an emergency, if my car broke down, if I have to fix something, if there's something I have to fix in my house, I know I can use that. But I wouldn't use my credit card. I would just go to the bank trying to get a personal loan. The personal loan, the interest might be a little bit lower than what on the credit card. So it's very important.
Yeah, I like you mentioned about the word emergency, and so how people should think about when they have the credit card, like in terms of the assumption and the philosophy. So should people, I'm talking about, new people or people who are resettling in the U.S., people who are not familiar with what is a credit card, should the assumption or the philosophy is that, listen, it's like a money they borrow me through the credit card? Or should they think that, oh, this is my money?
No, they shouldn't think it is their money. You have to be responsible. If you want to build your credit, you get a credit card, I will encourage you to use it, but whenever you purchase, you pay it. If you have a checking bank account, you have money on it, and then you need to build your credit, you can just purchase and then you pay it. But you cannot use your credit card as a mean for your daily activities, as part of your budget. Some people, they use it. Me, I have my credit card for a bigger expense. If there's an emergency, I know that I don't have to go to somebody say, let me borrow $200. I can just go to the bank and then stitch it. I can withdraw money from my credit card. But the only thing, when you withdraw money on your credit card, the interest rate is a little bit higher. The APR is a little bit higher, but it is there available to you if there's an emergency. So I want to stress that it's very important. You have to be responsible when you use a credit card. If you can't just go in, if you go into a restaurant every weekend, you're just using your credit card. But if you have a plan, I'm going to the restaurant, I'm going to use $50, and then once I get paid, I'm going to pay that $50. That's fine, but you cannot use it as a way, because eventually it's going to mess. When you build your credit, there's what they're going to tell you. If you're 2 months behind, one month behind, and this is where it's tricky. And then I know you get into later on. There's the question of soft inquiry and a hard inquiry, and this is where if you have a credit and then you don't receive a lot of credit offer, that's when there's something wrong with your credit. Because once you build your credit, other companies, they want to take advantage of that. They're going to keep sending you in the mail different offers. For example, every month I get an offer in the mail. I say, if you use your credit card today, you'll have like the 9 months, no interest. Okay. So sometimes I take advantage of it because I know the balance. I can just pay the balance for 9 months. I don't have to pay any interest on it. At the same time, if you have an interest, you purchase something for a higher value, and then you're gonna give minimum pay. By the time it's gonna double the amount. You're gonna say, wow, it's taking me forever to pay it. And then now they require by law. If you look at your credit card statement, it will tell you how long. If you're making minimum payment, how long it's gonna take you to pay the balance, or if you're making this amount, how long it's gonna take it.
I think on the how people track it. So I received some people asking me questions. So I have a credit card. I spend, let's say, $100. When should I put it back?
Well, it's if you build in your credit, you just pay it like $25 for each cycle. But if you already have a credit, you have the money, you should just pay the $100.
Okay. Should someone pay it like within 30 days, within 25 days?
Well, normally the cycle is 30 days. If you don't pay in the 30 days, you're gonna be late. There's a late fee. The late fee now, it's used to be $25. And then now it's $35. I think there are some institutions, it's $37 for late. So basically and then you get charged $37 for late fee, and then on the top of that, it goes to the credit bureau and then reporting that. And then this is where if you are in need for a loan, a mortgage, or auto loan, this is where they're gonna look at your credit. You might get a loan, but they're gonna charge you a higher interest rate because you're a risky borrower. Okay. So this is where it's a little bit tricky. It's not in your advantage not to be responsible to pay on time.
Okay. And as you mentioned a while ago about the soft and the hard inquiry, so I have people, they go to stores and stores offer them credit card, or they go to apply through a bank. So how people should understand when it's a hard inquiry or a soft inquiry?
It's depend. Basically, the soft inquiry, my understanding is it usually coming from if you just stay in your mail, you get something. But it seems like every time you make a point to fill out a credit card, they offer you fill out. It will be some kind of a hard inquiry, or if you go get a loan, a car loan, it's gonna be a hard inquiry on your credit card. So you have to be careful you don't do it too often, because it's gonna drop your credit score. It can affect your credit score, but the soft inquiry doesn't affect your credit score. The soft inquiry it's when you you open your mail, you get like 2 credit card offer, tell you qualify for, yeah. Those are the soft inquiry. But whenever you go to a point, they offer you at the one of those stores, it's gonna hit. If you do it too many times, it's gonna affect your credit score.
So about the inquiry, which in terms of points, so do they say how many points?
It's based on the research. I went to the Experience website and other institution website. It says that you will lose about your score will go down about 5 points. 5 points.
Okay. And so now, I don't know if I have credit, but I would like to have credit. So how could I understand when the credit is bad and when the credit is good in terms of what is the score range?
Well, in Massachusetts, they have what they call a free annual free credit report, which I will encourage anyone to do because I do it every year. So basically, there's you pull a credit report from each bureau, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experience. So each one of them, they reported different information. Some of them you might, if you have another utilities bill. Some people, if you have your utility bill like a gas, electric, or you don't pay it, they can report it to the institution. If they send your name to collection, then the collection send it to the credit bureau, and then that can affect your credit. So basically, in Massachusetts, you can pull up, I encourage everyone, if you just go to a free credit report, free annual credit report, you can pull one of them. So the only caution is make sure you know your stuff, because they're going to ask you a set of questions. If you don't answer it correctly, you end up, they will tell you send your inquiry in writing. So I do it every year, pull a credit report. I make sure if something doesn't look good in my credit report, and then I will call the one of the bureau and say that this is not, and then there's a way you can actually hit a button to dispute it if something doesn't look good. So it's very important that you do that, because at this age, there are a lot of identity theft. People, stealing information. So you make sure that you check your credit report. Sometimes if you don't have a credit history, nothing's gonna be in there. Yeah. But if you have a credit history, one way to start a credit too, if one of those department store, they want to offer you a card. Usually store card. Usually the interest rate is a little high. I have a department store card, so I usually, if I don't have the money, I don't use it. But if I have the money, I just use it, and then when I get the bill, I just pay the whole amount. But it is one way to actually build your credit. So.
Okay. Well, that's pretty smart way to do it. So. If my credit score, for instance, is, let's say, 350 or 450 or 550 or let's say 500 or up to 550, yeah. Can I consider is it good or bad?
It's not good. Based on it's a good credit report. It's between like 680 and 700. The score. The excellent to get, it's 850. But you want to be between 650 and 720. If you're in that category, it's and another thing that affect people's score. There's what they call debt load, the amount the debt you have. So you may have excellent credit, but if you have a lot of debt load, a lot of debt, it can affect your credit too as well, because they will look at your ability to pay. That can affect you will still be able to borrow, because they will look at history that you've been paying on time and everything. But when they look at your total amount of money you owe, and then they look at your income, and then that somehow has a little impacted your score. Instead of having on the 800 score, you might end up in the 750 or something like that. So, but if you pay on time, it's good. It's good to have credit. So,
all the viewers, this is Integration, and we continue having the dialogue with attorney Wadner OGE, who is willing to come to our platform and talk to us about credit, things people needs to know. And I believe he has been sharing very useful information, things to know about credit report. Like you can get an annual report, and you make sure that you have all your information in order to get that report online. Otherwise, they're going to require you to fill out paper to send it by mail. So, Wadner, I see like some situation people, they have a lot of debts and stuff like that, and they oblige to, let's say, declare something called bankruptcy. What is a bankruptcy?
Bankruptcy, it's an option that it's a right, a legal avenue that exists through the statute enacted by Congress. They have the bankruptcy statute, different type of bankruptcies. Basically, it's allowed somebody to have a fresh start. If someone has too many debts and either they lost their job or their income cannot sustain the debt, so it provides an avenue they can get a fresh start. But it's depending on the individual. There are different type of bankruptcies.
Okay, when you say there are different types, so would you mind to talk a little bit about the types and how might that related in terms of affecting credit?
Okay. Well, in terms of some people, there's that perceptions filed for bankruptcy. It's wrong. It's not good. But I just want to clear that the law exists is there for a purpose. If you're in a situation, this is the only avenue that you have. it's something you don't take very lightly because it can affect your credit. But I will explain to, I recently been informed, educated on that to take the misinformation about bankruptcy. But it is something that you're not supposed to take very lightly. But if it is something that's only option to you, of course it is. You should take it. You should consider that. Talk to an attorney. That really good. And then I know there's the Lawyers Project with the Boston Bar Association. They have a very good, they did a training. I participated in that, and then they help individual file for bankruptcy. If anybody interested, please call Ronald, and then I'll get that information to him. It's there. Basically, there are several type of bankruptcy. They have Chapter 7. Which is regularly you can file for bankruptcy if you have no asset, you just file it. For example, if you're working, you have your debt is outweighed, you can't live, you can't feed your family, you can't do anything. That's an options available to you. There's sometimes they will look at your asset. It's depend on, there's different, whether bankruptcy with asset or bankruptcy they don't consider an asset. But if you're a homeowner, you can still file for bankruptcy. Basically in Massachusetts, there's what the law protect, there's what they call exempt. Certain asset is exempt from bankruptcy. So that if you have a home, your house, it will allow you to stay in that home, and then you get after. It's usually Chapter 7 will take about 6 months, and then after that you get a clean start. But the negative impact of it, you would have to. Before I used to understand that you have to use cash only, but I understand that it mentioned that there are some institutions they're looking for the bad people. So even though you file for bankruptcy, you can still you get a credit card to start billing, but the interest rate gonna be very high. But you can use that as an option. You are using cash. Use that as an option to build your credit back up. That's one way. There's another type of bankruptcy, Chapter 13. Basically, you will have to. You work with a trustee. It's basically all those things taken at the federal level. Bankruptcy is federal law. But in terms of asset, they will look back to a state law to see what's exemption. They call it exemption. Certain asset they are exempt from going to. For example, if you're doing chapter 13, you have to spend at least 3 years paying. They will consolidate all the debt, and then you have to pay to the trustee. And then it's very important when you file for bankruptcy, you have to declare all your assets. And then they will make a determination which assets are exempt or which assets are not. And if they discover, sometimes they're going to have to sell it. As this is where you have to be very you cautious about it, because you can't just. If you have a car, you're planning by file from bankruptcy, you change the title to, because there's within the time, I think there's a period, they will look at any transfer that they can consider that as fraud. So you have to be very careful. You just have to put everything on the table. There's a trustee appointed by the bankruptcy court, and then they will look at your asset. And then for Chapter 7, if you're doing with no asset, they will look at your exempt property. Then they will, within 6 or 7 months, you get a clean start. For if you're doing 13 other type of bankruptcy, you're gonna have to make payment to the trustee for at least 3 years, and then after the 3 years, you get a clean start. There's other options that for corporation, but the most common one is Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. There's Chapter 11, there's Chapter 12.
Yep. A lot of
yes.
Okay, so that's why we need an attorney to help us in the process. So the show is to help people who are resettling here, and it's for that reason the name of the show is Integration.
Mm-hmm.
So immigrants and people who are resettling, what would be golden advice for people in terms of, either biases toward credit cards?
Yep.
And what is the best way they can protect themselves in terms of, I know you elaborated a little bit on it, but I need like advice you can give, especially with people who come here or people who've been here and they might be reluctant. Oh, credit card is, not, a good option, or I don't know, I heard too many bad things about credit cards. So what your advice to them, number one, and number two, what they should do in order, to protect themselves?
Well, basically, a credit card is not a bad thing. It's just you have to be use it responsibly. I myself, in my profession, my employment, we look at what we call financial responsibility. So basically, if you have a debt, you have to take care of it, and so that people know that if you have a credit card debt, you have to take care of it. You don't, say, well, they keep calling me, I'm gonna ignore them. There's what they go to the court. They go to the court, and then they get a judgment. Once they get a judgment, you don't pay it, it shows up on your credit. And then after that, they go back to the court, they get a supplemental process. And then this is where they can go ahead, attach if you have a bank account, they can go ahead, based on the summary process, they can go attach your bank account, or they can do what they call garnish your wage. It's very important that people, sometimes, you have to understand what you're getting to it. And sometimes people, they get bad advice, or just forget about it. You have to take care of it. And I can tell you that in my profession, what I do on a daily basis, I hold people back. I'm not going to say exactly what I do, okay, but I do hold people back for having bad credit, for not being financially responsible. You have to take care of it. In Massachusetts, they have the consumer protection law. It's very good, very thorough. If you have a credit card debt, there's the institution, what they do, they sell. Once they realize that they have a debt, they realize that, well, it's going to take me so long to collect that. They go sell it like 75 cents on a dollar. So if I owe you $500, for example, and you find another company, you say, Wadner owe me $500, but why don't you give me $150, and then you can try to collect the $500. In Massachusetts law, credit collection in Massachusetts, they have to prove that. So sometimes someone can come in after you for a judgment because you owe a credit card. If you go to the court, shows up in the court, you can win against them. Sometimes people, they just don't shows up. And then the credit card company, they have lawyers. They just go, the judge call so-and-so's here, not here, default. And then once they put a default on you, it shows up. If you're going to go try to get housing, it can affect you get housing. And I know people, they cannot get housing even though the income, they qualify for it, but they cannot get it because they have a bad credit. So it's very important. It's very important. If you get a piece of paper to shows up, please shows up on the court. And you can contact one of the bar association. They have those lawyers for the day. They can assist you if you're a low income individual. It's very important that you shows up or talk to someone. Say, I got this in the mail. Can you help me find somebody who can explain that? Don't just ignore it, because they're going to get, if you talk to somebody, they say, well, I filed my tax return. I didn't get it. They take it all, usually when somebody tell me, I say, there's something you did wrong. Either they send you the mail, they will send civil process, you just ignore it, or you have an address that you never lived there. Because before they get to you, what they call garnish your wages, or withhold your tax return, refund, it takes a long time because they have to get a judge to order it for them to get access to it. So it's one thing. A lot of newcomers, they made that mistake. So they just come in and ignore. No, it is good. You can get a credit card. Be responsible. Use it. You have it. as an emergency. But if you use it, make sure that you pay the minimum, at least pay the minimum payment every month. For me, if I can tell you that if I have a credit card debt $5,000, I get my tax refund, I will just send that $5,000 back. I don't just see that. I just, I know I use it, I just pay it. But I just want people to know, if you're listening, if you receive one of those, go to the court, because there's great protection, because they have to prove that they own the debt. And then they have to prove that they own it, because someone, as I explained, can sell it and then they can't prove that they actually own it. They send you the first statement. They cannot prove. They don't have those documentation. But debt collection statute in Massachusetts say that you have to do X, Y, and Z before you can actually collect in Massachusetts. So it's very important. I want that message to go across, that people understand that if you get something in the mail regarding to shows up in the court, please shows up. And then when you get there, if you need an attorney, ask the judge that if you can try more time to find somebody to assist you.
And this question I asked, it's like I'm about to finish. Yes,
yep.
I'm about to finish, but I would like you can give advice on that piece of situation I see. How many credit card you would advise people to have? Because some people, when they see they have good credit, what they started to do, they just, wherever they get credit card, they have several credit cards.
Well, I have at least, I have 3 credit cards. So what I do, let me explain. If you have good credit, every month, if you don't use it, you have the money sitting in the credit card, the balance is 0. They're going to keep sending you those offers. So if I have a credit card, I used it, they give me 9 months. When I mentioned the 9 months, once the 9 months come in, I transfer that balance to another credit card. And then I get another 9 months. So that's where you avoid paying the interest rate on that. But a minimum of 2, it's okay, as long as you can use it responsibly. And then if you have good credit, if you have 2, you can bounce a larger amount of balance from 1 and 2 without paying any interest rate until you take care of it. So that's the advantage. I use it. I do that all the time. Once I use it, when the 9 months is coming, I just bounce it to the other one. When the 9 months is finished on the other, of course there's a transfer fee. I want to be clear. There's a transfer fee, but when you calculate how much the transfer fee is, it's nothing if you were going to pay the interest rate every month. So I do that a lot. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Attorney Wadner, for taking your time coming to Integration and enlighten all viewers who are listening about being responsible financially, like when they, for instance, having a credit card. So how they should use it, what they should look out for, and things they should do in order to maintain their credit. And you also talk about bankruptcy and what people should understand about bankruptcy. And all the viewers, I want to thank you for taking your time and watching the show today. And thank you, Wadner, for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. We really appreciate all the good insights you give to us. And as I usually say, my name is Ronald Bernard, and I'm the host for the show called Integration. I'll see you for the next show. Thank you.